2002 AD, 5896 AM. The United States government at the cabinet level is restructured, creating an illegal and unconstitutional Homeland Security Department that oversees the numerous federal agencies. A filter that put the control of the many in the hands of the few and alienates the president from US intelligence. Only a massive terrorist scare or nuclear threat could have affected this blatant restructuring of the government. The Homeland Security Department effectively allows the elitists to control the government, not be the government. US invasion of Afghanistan occurs. The American public bulldozed into believing that a small, once CIA-backed resistance movement in Afghanistan, called the Taliban, was actually an international terrorist threat to the USA. Not one Saudi that hijacked the jets in 2001 was a member of the Taliban. The Windmill Hill formation appeared in July 18th, and on July 26th, NORAD tracked UFOs over Washington, D.C., exactly 50 years after July 26th, when UFOs were visually seen over Washington, D.C. As in 1952, fighter jets were sent to intercept, and eyewitnesses reported on Fox News that they watched Air Force jets chase a UFO across the sky. Isometric year 1994 AD. See example under 1998 AD. 2003 AD, 5897 AM. Just after the 108th Congress that convened in January, the Space Shuttle Columbia on re-entry burnt up and broke apart, killing the 7 astronauts, pieces falling on Texas. On March 19th, President Bush Jr. announced that the USA would invade Iraq, long in planning. This date was the day of Purim, the Jewish holiday celebrating their ancient victory over Babylon, Iraq. Using the lie that Iraq harboured hidden weapons of mass destruction, the Bush administration relied on this deception because it was already well known that the American public would never accept that Iraq had something to do with the 9/11 attacks, when the US government could still not answer how Afghanistan was involved on September 11th. The US armed forces demonstrated their incredible capability to neutralise an enemy with its shock and awe campaign of strategic cruise missile attacks and use of stealth bombers that within minutes left Baghdad and surrounding areas in chaos, without communications and effective leadership. Iraq falls to the USA, Babylon to Ephraim. The United States, a slave to those who are controlled by the hidden Zionist powers in Washington, went to war against a nation that had never raised a finger against her or her people. US forces occupied Basra, and interestingly in 1933, H.G. Wells wrote that in the future World War III, this was even before World War II, would come from events that occurred in Basra, Iraq. This was 70 years after the prediction. Astronomers discover UB313, a planetary body further away than Pluto inside the Kuiper belt. It is later named Eris. On November the 4th, the largest solar flare ever recorded exploded from the Sun's surface. This was the X22 flare, now known to have really been an X45 flare, twice the size of any known flare, but it pointed away from Earth. Still, main power failures left 50 million people without electricity in 8 states and in Ontario for 2 days. A very controversial and demonised researcher who was formerly a member of the House of Representatives, David Duke, wrote, quote, "In modern America, Jews lead the efforts to de-Christianize America. More importantly, Jews dominate the very unchristian mass media. Book publishing and distribution, major newspapers, magazines, movies and television are empires in which Jews are greatly overrepresented and Christians are vastly underrepresented." Unquote. Duke demonstrates that as of 2003 AD, the Jews are secretly in control of 90% of the information that Americans are exposed to. Victims unaware that everything they are told and see is through a Jewish filter. The following are all owned and or controlled by Jews, many of them hardcore Zionists, anti-American, pro-Israeli supremacists. Time Magazine, Newsweek, US News and World Report, People, Fortune, Sports Illustrated, the New York Times, Washington Post and all those papers they own, Wall Street Journal, the TV networks, CBS, NBC, ABC, CNN News Group, Nickelodeon, HBO, MTV, Showtime, Time Warner, Walt Disney Television, part of AOL, and the movie studios Warner Brothers, Castle Rock, New Line Cinema, Touchstone Television, Buena Vista Television, Touchstone Pictures, Hollywood Pictures, Caravan Pictures, Miramax Films, Paramount Pictures, Viacom, Universal Studios, New World Entertainment, DreamWorks, and many others unmentioned here. It is imperative that Zionists deal harshly with those who expose their control over America and the nations of the world. Already in Europe there are authors in prison for publishing material that exposes the lie of the Holocaust. Jewish organisations have pushed European governments to incarcerate those daring researchers who expose the Jewish lies about World War II and their decades-long extortion of Germany for continued war reparations. Isometric year, 1993 AD. NASA's Mars Observer spacecraft burned up in the atmosphere entering Mars skies. US missile strike destroyed the Iraqi intelligence headquarters in Baghdad. Asteroid Tutatis nearly hit the Earth. Solar flare affected Earth in 1993. 1. Synagogue of Satan. 2. William Dankenbrink Prophecy, Flash Volume 22. 4. Jewish Supremacism. 2004 AD, 5898 AM. US forces occupy Iraq. Gigantic asteroid Apophis discovered, named after Egyptian god of destruction and darkness. Scheduled to pass close in 2029, and gravitational pull of Earth may cause it to collide in 2036. On June 8th, the transit of Venus was watched around the world as the tiny planet Venus passed over the fiery orb of the Sun. Last transit occurred in 1822. Next will occur in 2012. The world's most powerful quake in 40 years occurred beneath the Indian Ocean, causing tsunami that killed 200,000 people in 12 nations of South Asia, 9.2 magnitude. After nearly 16 centuries, the Jewish Sanhedrin reconvened at the same locale where they had been dissolved, Tiberias. Isometric year, 1992 AD. Planetary orbit QB1 1992 discovered and Swift-Tuttle comet appeared. Hurricane Andrew devastated Florida. 2005 AD, 5899 AM. US forces are still fighting in Iraq. Quake killed 80,000 in India and Pakistan. Hurricanes Katrina and Rita devastate US coastal cities, destroying much of New Orleans and Central America. Katrina accompanied by 33 tornadoes. Katrina destroyed oil refineries and platforms in Gulf of Mexico. Astronomers took first direct photo of an exoplanet, a strange planet twice the size of Jupiter, about 100 AU's distance from the Sun. An AU, astronomical unit, is 93 million miles, an exoplanet being a planet that does not orbit a star. The most distant planet of our solar system, recognised by astronomers, is Neptune, which is 30 AUs from the Sun. The closest star to our Sun is 4.2 light-years, Alpha Centauri, meaning that this newly discovered exoplanet is a member of our own solar system. 70 additional AUs is nothing. This new exoplanet is probably a sighting of Phoenix or Nibiru on its way back toward the inner system. Phoenix is 35 years away and Nibiru 41 years from returning. After the sighting, official information on the object has been censored from the public. Amazing crop formation appeared of a pyramid bordered with intricate designs of geometrical rings, mathematically encoding the sum of 7344, 2448 times 3. The entire length of the Great Pyramid's timeline from 5239 BC to 2106 AD, 6000 AM. Isometric year, 1991 AD. US forces defeat Iraq in Desert Storm. Iraqis destroying many oil wells. Cyclone in India kills 139,000 people. China suffers worst floods since 1930s.